Hi, Northland family. In the city of Rome, you'll find the ruins of the Mamertine prison, which is an ancient prison overlooking the ruins of the Roman Forum. When it was built, this was Rome's only prison. It wasn't a prison like what we understand prisons today. It was more like a dungeon where important state prisoners were lowered into, often prior to their execution. This prison was located under the city sewers, so you can only imagine the smell, not to mention that the prison was so very dark. I've been in this hole in the ground known as a prison, and there isn't much to it. It's damp, with a small place to sit, and rock walls. That's about it. It was in this prison that the Apostle Paul wrote what has come to be known as his prison epistles, the books of Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon. I think about that prison every time I read the book of Philippians because one of the major themes in Philippians is the subject of joy. How can that be? Given Paul's circumstances, how could he live a life filled with joy? There was a court jester who served a king in days gone by. His purpose, as was the purpose of all court jesters, was to keep the king and his court amused when they called on him. One day this jester offended the king. The king then ordered the jester put to death. However, said the king, in consideration of your many years of service, I'll let you decide how you'll die. If it's all the same to you, replied the jester, I choose death by old age. You see, friends, some things we get to choose and some things we don't. We don't get to choose how we die, yet we do get to choose how we live. My hope for all of us at Northland is that we will choose to live a life filled with joy. It seems to me that our culture has become consumed with the idea that joy comes from without, and that's heresy. Joy comes from within. Joy isn't dependent on outward circumstances, but on an inner mindset. I've read Philippians a lot. It's my favorite book in the Bible, and I'm constantly amazed how a man who is living in a hole in the ground and facing a number of other problems as described in this book could live a life flooded with joy. After all, Paul didn't have a fat bank account. He didn't have a nice house or car or other toys that we deem essential. He couldn't even go to the nearest Starbucks. Yet joy flooded his life. How in the world is that possible? The reason, I believe, can be summed up in one verse. Verse 21 from chapter 1. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Wrap your mind around that verse. For to me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain. It seems to me that most of our culture lives by an altered form of this verse, such as, for to me, to live is money, and to die is to leave it all behind. For to me, to live is fame, and to die is to be forgotten. For to me, to live is power, and to die is to lose it all. For to me, to live is possessions, and to die is to take none of them with me. According to Paul, the secret of joy is the pursuit of Jesus Christ. This is a tough time for everyone. We all know that. We're housebound. Some people are experiencing economic hardships. I so greatly miss being together with our church family. I'm not sure when we're going to be able to meet again. But none of what we're going through, absolutely nothing of what we're going through, should rob us of our joy. As we choose to radically follow Jesus Christ, I believe we'll discover the same joy that replaced Paul's anxieties and fears with a calm contentment and peace. See, when Jesus is the central focus of our lives, we can choose joy despite our circumstances. Jesus isn't confined or bound like Paul was. In every circumstance, he is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all that we ask or think, writes Paul in Ephesians 3:20. See, when Christ is in full focus at the center of our hearts and our minds, we find contentment instead of insecurity. We find peace instead of anxiety and joy instead of fear. And that gives us hope for the future. The Apostle Paul had the unique ability to see opportunity in every misfortune. Because of Jesus Christ, Paul was able to choose joy despite difficult circumstances. Some of you may have allowed the current circumstances in which we live to rob you of joy. As we all seek to deepen our relationship with Jesus Christ, may I encourage all of us to choose a life filled with joy. Once again, friends, I would ask that you please pray for those in our church who have been hurt economically by the current crisis, and thank you so much for your continued faithful giving to Northland. I love you, church. I can't wait till we're together again, and I'm praying for you daily. Stay encouraged.